listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.
Hello, everyone. You're now tuned in to the mighty Narrative Podcast. The Narrative Podcast is the home of original people peace, original people reciprocity, and original people positivity. The Narrative Podcast promotes positive reinforcement of original people and original people culture. The Narrative Podcast provides positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. Welcome to the Narrative Podcast, and I am your host, Halsey Allen. Welcome all my narrators. Peace, family. Oh yeah, so we're off to a good start, semi-good start. On this terrific Tuesday. So we're just, this year is just whizzing by. So like I think scientists say we're gaining like an extra couple seconds due to the, the way the Earth's axis is spinning or something like that. Something, I don't know. But it does feel like time is just whizzing by quicker. I don't know, in your world, if just everything feels normal. With mine, it feels like lightning speed. But anyway, welcome to the Narrative Podcast. Got a pretty decent show for you this evening. So we got a few things to discuss. Now how I usually dive into the content on my platform is I promote all my current projects that I got going on, and then I give the listening audience, which is you, a brief synopsis of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content. And the reason why I give a brief overview is just to better familiarize you with the content, just so you will have full context of what you're listening to. But yeah, and then promote the projects, obviously, so you can support the platform and help me grow this thing and give you a better listening experience. So before doing all that, got some business to attend. So starting off this thing, who's into astrology? So seems like tonight and tomorrow night is like I think it's a full or a partial lunar eclipse. I think it's referred to as the harvest moon. So I think like the spiritual meaning behind that is change, I believe. So yeah, it basically like represents change. So who's going to be reflecting in the harvest moon? What are you going to be reflecting on in your life and in your world and in the world? And how do you plan to, pivot with your newfound revelations? So, just, stuff to ponder about. I give you a whole lot of stuff on this little podcast, not just current events. Next thing, big thing. Unfortunately, we have had another passing in the entertainment industry within our community. So Tito Jackson just passed. He passed on the 15th, which would make that Sunday, I believe. You know, very traumatic for the Jackson family, very traumatic for the world. Unfortunately, in the world of entertainment, for some odd reason, comedians within our community, they got this little ongoing gag, you Tito Jackson, like he's the lesser member of the Jackson 5, like he's the, I don't even know what to compare it to, how people try to basically play Tito in life. But in reality, Tito was just as important, or if not as more important, than Michael Jackson and Jermaine. Because without Tito, there would be no Jackson 5. Let me explain. So as the legend goes, how the Jackson 5 even got formed is one day Tito went and was playing on Joe Jackson's guitar, and he ended up breaking a guitar string. So one day Joe Jackson comes home, finds out, a guitar string is broken. And of course he questions all the kids, all the children. And, who, like parents do in our community, like, if you don't tell, like, I'm gonna get all y'all till I get the right one, basically. And then so Tito confessed that it was him that broke the guitar string. And so as punishment for breaking his guitar, he made Tito play by memory all the songs that were at the top of the charts in that era, like what was coming on the radio. All the top songs on the radio he had to play by memory, no official like training, he had to play it by ear, everything in the top 10 on the Billboard that year. And then so he did it, obviously, fulfilled the punishment, and then, he played so well, Joe Jackson said, well, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and start a band. So without Tito, there would be no Jackson 5, and without any Jackson 5, we definitely would have never had, the king of pop, their baby brother, Michael Jackson. So Tito Jackson was probably like the most important member of the Jacksons. Jackson 5, pardon me. So, we owe a lot to Tito as well. We kind of, I think he took it with a grain of salt, because they were saying that for years, like he was the lesser member of the Jacksons because he didn't, do any commercial type success. It was just like Michael and Jermaine. I think Rebe Jackson, she had one, and Toya, and of course Janet, like Tito and Randy, they didn't really Marlon, Tito, and Randy, they was kind of in the background. But yeah, definitely a sad day, and belated condolences to the Jackson family. Narrator Podcast extending love, light, healing energy to that family. Those that knew him, family, friends, associates, colleagues, whoever was in his presence in life. And so we're gonna give him a moment of silence before I plug all my projects. All right, rest in power, brother Tito Jackson. All right, so up first, the first thing to promote, obviously, is the podcast itself, the Narrator Podcast, and you can support the podcast by following me on YouTube and X. And the reason why you want to follow me on those two mediums is because after I'm done recording on this platform, it automatically goes to YouTube and X. So follow me on YouTube, Halzie Allen, HALLZIE Allen, and subscribe to my viewer channel. Click the subscribe button and then the notification button, notification all, and you will be notified every time a brand new episode of the Narrator Podcast uploads to YouTube. Then also obviously click the like button, the thumbs up on YouTube, and comment on the Narrator Podcast episode, and then share it to whatever platform that you like sharing content to. And that's how you support the platform on YouTube. So another thing, I just want to point out, that's my viewer channel. I don't have a channel just designated exclusively for Narrative Podcast content. So that's just my viewer channel. But what you want to do is go into my videos, and you will see that's the only thing uploaded on my channel. That's just all my channels. But I guess if you subscribe to my channel, you're going to see all the new episodes of the Narrative Podcast, because that's the only thing I'm uploading to YouTube, is just my episodes of the Narrative Podcast. And then follow me on X as well to support the platform. Now when you follow me on X, there's a lot more options I would like you to use. So first of all, when you go to my page, still kind of not too proficient with X. I'm still kind of navigating. I never really even got the hang of it when it was Twitter. But I don't know, like when you follow people, I guess you get notifications. So follow me on X, Halzie Allen. I stay good at Halzie Allen, all lowercase, no spaces. And then when you're on my page, when you see a copy of my book of poetry pinned to the top of my page, and it's titled The Black Card. So go to that, and then what you would want to do is to click on the link to the Narrative Podcast. Once you click on the link, then click the like button, which is in the shape of a heart, click the heart-shaped like button, and then it'll open up, and then you'll see the my banner of the Narrator podcast. You'll see the episode, the banner, and then underneath the banner, click the like button again, which is in the shape of a heart-shaped like button. Then next to that, you will see like a little clock dilly. Ignore that, and go and leave me a comment in the comment box. Then next to the comment box is the most important feature that I need you guys to do, is the download feature. The download feature is in the shape of a cloud. It has an arrow pointing down. I need you to click on that. Click the cloud to download the episode of the new episode of the Narrator podcast. So download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrator podcast. And that'll help the platform immensely. That's the the best thing to help the platform grow is the downloads. But I also need you to of course, like and comment and share episodes of the Narrator podcast wherever you would like to share content on the digital space, on digital media. Then also I would like to just say to my visual content creators, people, whoever, uploads content behind the camera, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, InShot, whatever you do videos for, to support the platform. You'll probably just want to shout out the Narrator podcast. I appreciate that. That's just for the visual content creators. Everybody else, just like, share, and download episodes of the Narrator podcast wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your podcast source from. It's available on all podcast mediums. So go look for it, the Narrator podcast, hosted by me, Halsey Allen, because there's literally thousands of podcasts titled the Narrator podcast, but look for mine, hosted by Halsey Allen, and the banner for my podcast is in the shape of a microphone. It says the Narrator podcast. That's me. There are thousands of podcasts titled the Narrator podcast, but mine is the only one that actually matters, because I'm the only one talking about something. No cap. Like, no shade, no cap, just facts. So the next thing I would like to promote is my book of poetry that I've written, and the name of it is called The Black Card. It's available on poetizer.com. And poetizer.com basically is a social media site for writers to socially interact with one another, critique each other's work, and also, participate in various writing prompts. It's for all genres of writing, essay writing, short story, novel writing, and of course poetry. That's who the social media platform is aimed towards, is poets. It's implied in the name, Poetizer. They also have a self-publishing site for members of that community, social media community. They can write books and sell it on that platform. That platform has an online bookstore, a virtual online bookstore, and that's where you want to go to get my title, the black card that I wrote, on poetizer.com inside their virtual online bookstore. And what the black card is about is basically just a retrospective piece about our people. You know, everything that encompasses what it's like to be us, a day in the life of, you know, / survival card / journal. You know, everything, you know, all the nuances of our culture, everything we experience, both positive and negative, like everything that comes with being black. You know, that's what the black card is all about. You know, it captures us, our essence, and our beings in its entirety. So if you're an original man or original woman, you automatically you know, gravitate towards that book, and each piece will, you know, resonate with you. People outside of our culture, they can also enjoy the book if they consider themselves open-minded or progressive when it comes to, you know, learning about different people and different cultures. So they can definitely, somebody outside of our culture could definitely appreciate that book as well. You know, parents, educators, they can, you know, purchase that book and use it as a frame of reference to teach their children about, you know, different cultures. But it's a fantastic book. You know, it just it's very insightful and creative, and you know, it's just me basically making some astute observations and capturing it in you know, true poetic style. So go check that out today, poetizer.com, the black card, or get your black card revoked. And my last project that I want to promote is my personal poetry blog on blogger.com. It's titled hallziespoetrycorner, and the link to it is www.mrhallziesblogs.com. And basically what that is, it's just poetry that I've spontaneously written in the moment about various topics. You know, they're just I literally have a poem for any occasion you can think about in life. You know, various different topics, subject matters, you know, from ranging from life to death to, you know, happy, sad, all the emotions. You know, there's just literally any experience in life you can think of. There's probably a poem on my poetry blog, and then I'm still not done, you know. Now I do upload sporadically because that's my gift of poetry. I don't just I don't force, you know, I don't force anything. Like if I don't feel like, you know, writing, I'm not going to post on my blog. And then also sometimes when I write, I don't feel like sharing what I write. So, you know, that's my gift. The unique thing about it is, like I said, you know, the poems are so versatile. They're so detailed and intricate and specific and intentional. Upon reading one of my pieces, they would be under the under the impression that I spent like a whole lot of time on each one of them, and I actually didn't. I wrote each and every piece posted on that blog site spontaneously in the moment. I didn't, contemplate what I was going to title each piece, and I definitely didn't contemplate, the subject matter for each piece. They just like, they literally just came out. So the poems are basically very abstract and creative. So if you enjoy poetry, you can visit that blog site. They're for everybody, like anybody from any walk of life. Whatever you're going through in life, there's a poem for you on that blog site. Everybody can appreciate it. Now I do got a few just that deals with our experience. By our experience, I mean, original people, black people, what we go through as a people. I got a little bit over a dozen for our people, but primarily everything is for, on that blog site is for anybody. Nearly anybody can relate to, the poetry on that blog site. So go check that out, Hallzies Poetry Corner, on www.mrhallziesblog.com, on blogger.com. And the tagline for my poetry blog is Hallzies Poetry Corner, poetry with a passion, poetry for all occasions. And how you support the poetry blog is obviously to, visit the link, www.mrhallziesblogs.com. Share the link to the blog site or a poem featured on the blog site across all digital platforms. And then also leave me a comment as well. And then share poems from Hallzies Poetry Corner across all platforms. And then same thing for my visual content creators. Probably shout out a piece that you like if you visited the link. If you read a piece and liked it, shout out the piece. And then shout out the poetry blog itself, Hallzies Poetry Corner. And that will help that platform grow. So that's all my projects I have to promote. I keep you updated on, the latest developments. Those are kind of my own ones that's finished, and they're just kind of ongoing. So anything new that I'm working on, anything that I have finished, I will tell you and promote that on here. Other than that, that's all I have to promote. And now on to the synopsis of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content this evening. So starting at the top, Tippy the name. I named my podcast the Narrative Podcast because I don't like the false narrative that the media weaves about original people and original people culture. I don't like the way they, inaccurately and divisively depict our images and our likenesses across all media platforms. So what I wanted to do to counter that is design a platform where I'm showcasing and highlighting our people at our best and providing the listening audience with positive frames of reference. So that's basically what I do here on the Narrative Podcast. I provide the listening audience with positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. I also bring awareness to the listening audience of why it's important to responsibly use your media platforms to share positive frames of reference about our people and our culture, and also to encourage the listening audience to responsibly utilize their media platforms to share positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. And I think that's a perfect segue to my tagline for the Narrator Podcast. Narrator Podcast, changing the narrative one episode at a time by destroying negative stereotypes about original people and original people culture. How do I destroy the negative stereotypes about our people and our culture? By providing positive frames of reference about our people and our culture, altering or changing the perception of how our people are portrayed, hence the title, the Narrator Podcast. So, that's, basically my mission statement and what the Narrator Podcast is all about in a nutshell. Now, another thing you need to be aware about the Narrator Podcast is I refer to my listening audience as my narrators. And what I mean when I call my listening audience my narrators is basically I'm saying it's a call to action. It's basically just telling the listening audience to tell our own stories, because by definition a narrator is somebody that lets you know what the story is about. They're narrating the story. So if you're listening to a play or something, or even a movie, sometimes a movie or television, they'll have a narrator, and they're setting up the scene to give you a better context of what's going on here. So that's what I mean when I call my target listening audience my narrators. And just to give you a little bit more context, what I mean behind that, I delve in a little further into that. We're living in the digital information age, and everybody, we basically share information, we communicate with one another online, we share and broadcast content online, but pretty much all digital platforms have a bio section. And in the bio section, people list the things that they're into, their hobbies, their interests, their viewpoints, what they believe in, and then once their bio section is filled out, they usually upload content that visually reflects what they've entered in the bio section. And their visual content that they upload is the best possible visual image to complement what they've entered in the bio section of their profile. So that's what I mean when I'm calling my listening audience my narrators. We need the best visual frame of reference to tell our story, to represent us as a people. We need to be uploading the best possible visual images to represent us as a people. We need to have the strongest visual images we can possibly upload, because that's what represents your profile. The best possible visual images to kind of accentuate the story that you've told about yourself. So the story we should be telling about ourselves as a people is that we are kings and queens, gods and goddesses of the universe. That's the story that needs to be universal across all media platforms. And the reason why we need to do that is because if history hasn't taught us anything, it's taught us this: if you don't tell your own story will be told for you. And the story of our people is not a good one. It's the story of crime. It's the story of degeneracy. It's the story of laziness. It's the story of social inaptitude. It's a story of being downtrodden and disenfranchised. It's a story of ignorance, laziness. This is the story that the media is telling about our people. But we have the unique opportunity to tell our story, tell or narrate our story the correct way. Is while we can't, impress upon people outside of our culture. That's how they gauge us, that's how they interact with us, and that's how they react to us, is just basically they're going off by the frames of reference that they're given to them by the media. They don't know us, they don't live with us. All they know is what they see in television shows, in movies, what they hear in music, pop culture. That's the only way they gauge us, how to interact with us, is the way we're depicted across all media platforms. And the way we're depicted across all media platforms is negative, in a negative light. So, while we can't control how they perceive us, what we can control is the type of content that we are uploading. And so, that's how, we can change the narrative, uploading positive content. And that's why I call my target listening audience my narrators. And that's your assignment as a narrator, is to upload positive content to reflect yourself and your community in a positive way. So next point that you need to be aware of when listening to the Narrator podcast is that this is a positive space. I don't engage in negativity, gossip, slander, name calling, finger pointing, nothing negative. This is a positive, safe space for original people. All the content that I try to bring you guys is just like uplifting, inspirational, compelling, powerful, and just makes you feel good about yourself, because we have so many things to make us feel bad about ourselves, and that's kind of the media's job to do that. They've been doing it since they ever found out we existed, because they feel so inferior to us. They gotta try to make us look as bad as they possibly can in order to boast their self-esteem. So that's why I'm dedicated to just making this a place of positivity. I'm all about upliftment, edification of our people. I encourage and promote positive reinforcement of our people and our culture, and just celebrate everything we're doing right as a people, and broadcast all the splendor, all the exuberance, which is us. So having said that, I do speak about current events, whatever's trending on in the news, whatever's going on in the world. And usually, when I'm covering news, it's just basically from our perspective, from our point of view, what that, I try to unpack it, what that means to us as a people. And the way I unpack it is from the bigger picture perspective. So like anytime, usually when something negative is happening within our community, it's usually two things at play. It's systemic oppression and psychological programming and conditioning. So like anytime when any of us is like acting out in a negative way, criminally, or just if we're in the news for something negative, those are usually the two factors at play. So not saying, I'm all for self-accountability, because we do, as adults, we have to be accountable for our actions, but to not acknowledge those two things would be folly. So we can't blame everything on society, we can't blame everything on the white man, we can't blame everything, on the government and all that, but as a people, all those things I just named, like, have done some horrendous, horrible things to us, and they are contributing factors to all things negative that encompasses us. So yeah, because what I don't like is the we have to do better scenario. It's always we have to do better. That's our go-to when something negative is happening within our community. Oh, we got to do better as a people. We got to do better. We got to do better. The people that has literally had everything done to them, everything taken away from them, has to do better. I'm not all right with that. That shouldn't be our go-to response all the time. So basically said all that to say, anytime I'm mentioning a famous person's name, it's just really probably because they're in the media for something negative, and I'm breaking it down, from that perspective. So it's not to shame them or embarrass them or nothing like that. It's just, unfortunately, I have to bring their name up because, I'm a podcaster, and you got to talk about current events, and usually in our community, when our people is, usually in the media, it's for something negative. But yeah. So there is an exception to every rule, and my exception to that rule, to the stay positive rule, and to not talk about people from our community, is if a person from our community has identified themselves to be an enemy of our community. And how do they become an enemy of our community? By betraying our community, by engaging in activity and actions that make our community look bad. So, like, if a famous person is intentionally using their platform to promote negative stereotypes and stigmas about our people and our culture, intentionally for monetary gain, to check a bag, they're, doing something stereotypical, engaging in stereotypical behavior, I will call said individual out on that. But other than that, this is a positive space. I just stick to the script, keep it positive, mind my own business, mind the business that's paying me, and that is to be positive. Positivity is paying me, so that's what I promote on here. I promote what I love, not bash what I hate. And, that's it about the focal point of the Narrative Podcast. Next thing you need to know, this is a time-sensitive platform, meaning I don't try to exceed 1 hour per broadcast, and the reason being is because I don't want to, bore the listening audience asleep. I want to keep it fresh, entertaining, informative, and easy to listen to. I want my content to be digestible and applicable to the listener. So, like, after you're done listening, you can, do something with it. And I can't do that if I'm losing you within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the broadcast, because there's so many things to distract and divert our attention from, things that matter. The telephone, your phone could ring, television, something on TV, a noise in your house, So I gotta just basically just make it direct and forward and straight to the point as possible, and try to leave out all the fillers and dead air space, and just try to keep it brief and to the point. So that's the goal of the Narrative Podcast, time-wise. And then last but not least, on this platform, I refer to our people as original people. And I refer to our people, black people, as original people for a couple reasons. Most important reason is it's historically accurate to refer to ourselves as original people. And then also to unify us as a people. So what do I mean by it's historically accurate? It's historically accurate because we were and are the original people of this planet. We was here first. Our resistance here predates all religious tracts. It predates, all logs, calendars, scrolls, scripts. We were here. We existed before anything existed. We not only was here first, we also originated everything. Hence the term original people. Everything comes from us. Every invention you can name, you can think of, every modern day invention you can think of. There's an ancient version of it that we invented. We pretty much invented everything. We originated everything. We were the original, educators. We was the original philosophers. We was the original architects, alchemists, scientists. We was all the ists. We originated everything. I don't know how to break it down more clearly than that. In the sub-point that I want to tack on to us being original people, I want to dispel the false narrative of slavery. Historians has appointed slavery as the most important part of our history. They want to, basically perpetuate everything surrounding slavery. When, like I just said, we were and are the original people. So meaning we existed before the concept of slavery even started. So, one of the false narratives that they like to promote is that we all got to wherever we at in the world on slave boats. Once again, we existed thousands of years before everybody. That means we got to wherever we was at in the world freely on our own because we chose to be in that area. We was already on all 7 continents. We was already in Europe. We was already in the Mediterranean. We was already in Central America, all Spanish, anywhere they speak Spanish. We was already. We was already on the continent of Asia. We was like every place. Japan, China, Thailand, Korea, Micronesia. Mongolia, Taiwan, Philippines was already there. Everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere, even the North and South Pole. All the islands, every island you can think of, we was already there. Hawaii, the Bahamas, Australia, Canada, everywhere. We got to all them places freely on our own. There was already large concentrations of our people. So it don't make sense how they got in the history that they kept going back to Africa for hundreds of years getting African slaves. What makes more sense is that the colonizers or explorers that explored all these different places enslaved the original indigenous people of those lands, especially here in the Americas. Less than 70% of us came from a slave boat. The majority of us was already here. So when they saying the pilgrims raped the Indians, they talking about our people. And so our African brothers and sisters don't get offended by us, saying that we not from Africa. That's just a scientific fact. We're not offended or saying, we're offended by the mere notion that we could be from Africa. We just know they lying. Y'all know they lying. So essentially, it's one of them things that we are, but we're not. It's like, yeah, our lineage, when you take a look back, we're from there, but we're from there because we migrated from there freely on our own to all these different spots. And then we inhabited these different spots upon leaving freely on our own. You didn't think we were just there. We wasn't like, what's over here? Let's go over here. Let's try going over here. Let's see what's over there. But they want to make us just all come from slave boats. So what they're doing when they do that is they're actually trying to fearmonger and, promote a time in history where we had little to no power, we had little to no say so. And that's what they're trying to etch and embroider in our memories and the rest of the world's memory. They want to skip over the part where we was building cities, where we was building citadels, where we was inventing things, where we was teaching people how to survive. Like we invented religion and spirituality. They want to glaze over the part where we ruled all that we surveyed. So essentially, everything in it and on it, this planet belongs to us. We was the original people. They're trying to, promote the image of fear. They want to promote the image of the fearful slave. That we was cowering in fear and we never tried to, get our freedom, when all throughout slavery, that's all we ever did was revolt against slavery. You think there was only one Harriet Tubman? You think there was only one Nat Turner? We revolted all throughout slavery. And it wasn't it wasn't a nice one. We was decapitating heads left and right. But they leave all that out because they want to, like I said, they want to put up the fear, the fearful, docile slave. The yes, massa, yes, sir. No, ma'am, yes, sir. Those are the images they want to implant in everybody's head. They don't want that revolutionary spirit. So that's all I really want to point out about the slave trade. While slavery did happen, some of us, keyword some of us did arrive on slave boats, through the passage of chattel slavery. Some, not all. No such thing as Afro-Latino. No such thing as Afro anything. Afro is a hairstyle. So if they're saying Afro in reference to dark skin, whatever, those are the original indigenous people of that land that they're talking about. They was there before the fair-skinned people. So now, next point I want to talk about is, I said the unity side of it. What do I mean? Why I call, our people, original people, to unify us as a people? Because we have so many things to divide us as a people. We have land masses, we have religion, we have spirituality, we have politics, we have language, but everybody outside of our culture, they don't see any of that when they look at us. All they see is black. And they call us black. They don't call us by our nationalities. A white man's not going to look at you and call you Jamaican. A white man's not going to look at you and call you Haitian or Trini or for our original people to speak Spanish, they're not going to call you Cuban or Argentinian. They're going to call you black. Or Colombian or Brazilian, they're going to call you black. So pretty much everybody outside of our culture, when they look at our skin, they don't refer to us as our nationalities. They just say you're black. They don't call you, a Christian or a Muslim or, whatever your religion is. They call you black. So we need to take that same ideology and find a universal term for all of us. And the term would be original people, because we can all trace our lineage back to the original origin for all civilization. Then we also have, large concentrations of carbon, aka melanin. And then we all have an unspoken universal bond with us. We just know. We have different regional and cultural differences amongst us, but essentially, we all struggle against the same plight. It's the same all around the world for our people. Anywhere you go, you're going to see our people getting treated differently. You're going to see our people getting ostracized, our people, at war. But another advantage of referring to ourselves as original people is it's empowering, it's impactful, it's uplifting. There's nothing better than the original. The original is first. You can't trump the first. Nothing really rarely beats the first. Because everything has to get modeled after the first. Before improvements is made, there has to be a first. We, unequivocally, undeniable, scientifically, were the first. We was the blueprint for all civilization. Everything was modeled after us. So, that's why I refer to our people as original people here on the Narrator Podcast. You can call yourself whatever you like and whatever you comfortable in your own personal life. But on here, every time I'm saying original people, I'm talking about our people. So now that you know everything you need to know about the Narrator Podcast, I'm going to dive on into this episode of the Narrator Podcast. Another thing you need to be aware of is I broadcast during the weekday and in the weekend. I have two different format styles for each broadcast time. During the weekday, I have 2 sections. During the weekend, I have 5 sections. So being that it is a weekday, I'm going to dive into my first section. This section is called Positive News Articles. And the reason why I feel the need to do positive news articles during the weekday is because we're bombarded with so much negative news. And as I said, it's intentionally done by the media. It's a form of psychological warfare. They're bombarding us with propaganda. They're trying to psychologically manipulate our self-perception of ourselves, the way we see ourselves, the way we treat each other, and then also the rest of the world, how they view us and how they treat us and how they react to us. So basically what I'm doing when I'm sharing positive news articles, I'm conveying that positive things happen in our community, that we live positive, normal lives, because the media normalizes things in our community that are not normal. They normalize poverty. They normalize degeneracy. They normalize lewdness. They normalize uneducation or miseducation. They normalize buffoonery, pardon me. They normalize buffoonery. They normalize all these negative stereotypes and stigmas about our people and our culture. So, by me sharing a positive news article, that's kind of like reclaiming our power, conveying positive things happening in our community, letting we have leaders, we have people in our community that have the answers to the problems that our government and our systems cause. So without any further ado, I'm diving into the first positive news article this evening here on the Narrator Podcast, weekday edition. This is a super duper short one. Headline reads, ex-NFL player Jason Brown made $1 million, quit at age 29, becomes a farmer, and donates his food to pantries. And that's really all the article, the headline was. It was just the headline. I kind of had to research on my own about, the rest of it. So he donates to pantries through his nonprofit organization called Wisdom for Life. The name of his farm is called First Fruits Farm. That's what he, harvests to share with communities and impacted neighborhoods that need the food. So go to wisdomforlife.org and then you will see it. And so Jason Brown, he basically is a born again Christian, and so through Christian faith and values, he felt the reason why he quit the NFL early is basically he was going against his faith, like he was lusting after, material things. Cause he got the big house, he got the, the sports car, exotic sports car. He's like, at 29, well, I done did everything. Like, I want something more fulfilling and, living a life in stride into what I profess to claim to believe in, which is, his Lord and Savior. So that's why he's doing that. He said, I got to give back to the community, give back to, people that actually need something. And so that's what he wants to make his life work. Is dedicated to helping, the disenfranchised, less fortunate, and, hungry people everywhere. So that's basically his mission statement. To find out more about, his nonprofit organization, Wisdom for Life, go to wisdomforlife.org. And, let's give a Warm Narrative Podcast round of applause for our brother Jason Brown and his First Fruits Farm. Next thing came across my radar. Headline reads, Black family closes 7-figure real estate deal to recreate modern day Black Wall Street in Mississippi. And the brother's name is Tony A. I believe his name is Rockford Jr. and his wife. Has a Q in it. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. Pardon me. So the brother's name is Reminique. Tony A. Reminique Jr. I said Rockford. I don't know. He purchased it in Hattiesburg. Purchased a Hattiesburg strip mall and transformed it into a Black Wall Street. This strip mall is the second in their business ventures. This deal brokered them a whopping $1 million. The Reminique family's personal goal is to revitalize Tulsa and Mound Bayou's Black Wall Street. And the name of the project will be called the Greenwood Plaza. It's still in development, but you can follow for updates at blackwallstreet.org. I think they got a video on there of them breaking ground and telling about their vision, for the future, about all the shops and stuff that they're going to have there. So check it out. It's a good project, and I know we'll support once they get it up and going. Like, it's a go. They already have the property. They're excavating and building as we speak. They just haven't released it to the public. The date that they're going to open it, I'm not finding any information anyway. But yeah, I think they had one similar in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think there was a black mall in Texas somewhere, but I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, join me into giving our brother Tony Romanique Jr. and family. His family owned and operated it there. It's with his wife and 3 children. So this is generational wealth on the table as well for their dynasty that they're building. Give them a warm Narrative Podcast round of applause for the future coming of the Greenwood Plaza. It might not be called the Greenwood Plaza. They said, that's the name that they settled on. Nothing's in stone yet. So they're still building it. But whatever the mall, whatever incarnation we get, it's going to be, original people owned and operated from the top and the bottom. It's, all our money. So all opportunities are possible. It's going to be all original people owned and operated vendors that occupy the shopping plaza when they get it finished. So let's give them a round of applause for the soon coming Greenwood Plaza in Mississippi. All right, next up on the Narrative Podcast, the headline reads, ex-football player Warwick Dunn has formally given 170,000 homes to single parents. He donated 173 plus homes to single parents and his charity alongside Habitat for Humanity. And the name of his nonprofit organization is called Warwick Dunn Charities. And to find out more what they do, you can go to wdc.org. So I got some super duper short articles tonight, you guys. But, a positive news article is a positive news article. Then last but not least, my last positive news article this evening for this weekday edition of the Narrative Podcast. The headline reads, two best friends and business partners start a hydration company to create a healthier alternative to sugary drinks. And the brothers' names are Ewing Carter and LaClaude Numa. And the name of their product is called Bounce Back Daily Hydration. Bounce Back Daily Hydration has 13 essential vitamins, 0 sugars, 5 calories, and 900 milligrams of electrolytes. And to find out about the brothers' product, more about their product, go to drinkbounceback.com. And the name of it is, again, Bounce Back Daily Hydration. I was just saying Bounce Back Hydration. It's Bounce Back Daily Hydration. So basically, it's just like all those other, powder drink mixes, like, Gatorade and stuff. They're saying it's healthy. I haven't purchased the product myself. So I don't know if it got the red or yellow dyes in it or not. You guys would have to do your own due diligence on that. They're claiming it to be mostly all natural. We're going to see. So go to Bounce Back. Or drinkbounceback.com. And let's give a warm Narrative Podcast round of applause to these two brothers, Ewing Carter and LaClaude Numa, for their product, Bounce Back Daily Hydration. Remember that old No Limit song? Bounce back, bounce back. All right, on to my last section of the Narrator podcast. Last section is my current event section. I call my current event section my speaking point section, and I'm basically just talking about breaking news or current events in the world, whether it be globally, nationally, or just something within our community. And on days when I don't have anything to talk about, I usually just to do a observation or a PSA. And I think this is one of these days, because currently the only thing that's really trending right now, the biggest thing trending right now, I feel it's not worth talking about, but we kind of got to talk about it because it did happen within our community and it impacts a whole lot of people, you know, on the positive side and on the negative side. So unless you've been living under a rock, Sean Combs, Puffy, P. Diddy, Love, whatever you, Papa Diddy Pop, whatever you want to call him, got federally indicted. He was arrested on charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. So whatever they found when they did that raid, they're deeming that enough evidence to hold him on the charges that they're bringing him up on. So like, now the sex trafficking thing. So I did some research. So sex trafficking ain't what like most people think it is. Like when you think sex trafficking, first thing you think about is like prostitution, pimping. So it is, but then it's not. There's a lot of gray areas to sex trafficking. Do you know if you're like dating and you meet a woman online, she lives in a different state, if you send her tickets, airline tickets to come see you, technically that's sex trafficking. So there's a whole lot of gray areas. But you know, it's not that I don't care, because you know, whatever, you know, the media says about him, whatever other people are saying about him, he did do a whole lot of positive things too in the industry. You can't like knock or take that from him. He helped a whole lot of people's career. You know, whether you felt he was corny or whatever, nerdy or corny or creepy or weird, he did do some good, and you can't just, you know, strip everything because they found some negative stuff. So not saying, you know, anybody impacted by whatever he alleged to have done, if they was, you know, like, because a whole lot of victims is coming forward. So like, I'm not saying the victims don't have a right to feel a certain way, you know, but essentially, on the whole, what evidence did they really have? They got a lot of hearsay, and what do you have to make it stick? So the RICO Act, so basically they got him on the RICO. And so the RICO Act is basically kind of like conspiracy. Like, it's like 3 or 4 people doing something illegal can conspire to do something illegal. So got him on the RICO Act under racketeering, which falls under criminal behavior, including but not limited to criminal behavior such as murder, extortion, and bribery. And so, yeah, there been a whole lot of extortion and murder allegations about him. So I don't know the breakdown. I ain't gonna pretend like I know the breakdown or even like I've been following the story after the whole Cassie thing. Like, it's sad and unfortunate because he had enough resources to actually do some good. And he definitely could have been a force. And so, like I said, I'm kind of 50-50 on it because it was like 50-50. For every like one person that says something negative, it's one person that says something positive. So every one person that says they saw, you know, the wild homosexual type acts at the Diddy parties, you got like one person that says they didn't witness no such thing when they were in attendance at one of the Diddy parties. So like, I'm just from the outside looking in, so I don't know. But I just find it, you know, just funny that the guy opposes, you know, that liquor company, and then all of a sudden crap starts rolling downhill. Now a whole lot of people saying it was a long time coming, and yeah, that's what he get. But, you know, they just got a history of doing that. Like right when, like, people within our community, when they get to a certain status, they gotta come out the woodwork to kind of tap them on the shoulder and be like, you know, you still got to listen to me. Don't let that money go to your head and act like I can't come and get you. Like, it kind of takes me back to that scene in like the early 90s, the Spike Lee movie about Malcolm X. And it's a scene in there where it's Malcolm X talking to West Indian Archie, and he's like something about going to the military. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna dodge the draft." He said, "You ain't dodging no draft. When they ready for your black ass, they coming to get you." And so that's what this whole Puffy thing is like, you know, reminiscent to me about. It's like, when they ready for you, they're gonna come and get you. And they came, got him when they was ready for him. So they let him get his little Diddy dance off. That take that. They let it get up for like 2 decades, and then they came, got him when they was ready for him. They wasn't ready for him back then. Because back then he was small potatoes. He didn't have too much. But then now he done amassed so much wealth, so many mansions, so many private jets. Like, oh, you doing too much. We gotta come get you. You doing way too much, bruh. who this, who this, who this N-word hard think he is. To me, just from the outside looking in, like he getting the N-word wake up call. So I don't know. I'm not going to go back and forth on the allegations. I don't know. I ain't been to no Diddy party. No Diddy. I don't know. But on a personal note, I always, even in the early 90s, thought he was kind of sus. My personal gut feeling as a young boy, because he came out like in the early 90s, like 91, 92, I'm like, he can be kind of sweet. Kind of sweet right there. I don't know. But like, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, you can't knock that. You can't knock that no type of way. Whether you feel he stole from his artist, because like again, I'm 50-50 on that. For every one artist that says, he jerked them, you got one artist that says, they owe their career to him. Like, you made me, you got an artist to say, I am what, you gave me a platform to be what I am. So you got a couple, like, just case, for example, like, his last hip hop group, Making the Band. You got a cat, Freddie P. He done did like umpteenth videos, umpteenth interviews saying this, that, and the third. But then you got his bandmates that give their accounts, and they said, they said it was all love. You got two that was like called him a bastard, Freddie P and Dylan, and then you got two that can't give no negative accounts. They said they didn't witness none of that. So Enessie said he didn't witness none of that. Bab says she didn't witness none of that. So like half and half. So I don't know. But to each their own, and I guess the lesson out of this, if these allegations are true, something I say on this platform all the time, like, you can't buy your way out of it. You can't buy your way out of it. There's a lot of people in our community, they think their goal, their motivation for becoming millionaires and billionaires is to live a prosperous, abundant filled life and just do all the things they want to in life and have the resources to just basically be on their own time. And that's a beautiful sentiment. That's a beautiful dream. You should never not want to aspire to, have that. But in that, just know that you're going to get attacked even harder. You think you're going through hard times now, you're going to get attacked even harder when you do acquire that tax bracket. All the stuff that's going to come with it. Matter of fact, a song he produced, Biggie, more money, more problems. Like, it's the more problems part of it. This is what comes with it. The scrutiny, the betrayal, the envy, the lust, all that comes with that lifestyle. So if that's what you want, get ready. Strap up and get ready. Because you might not get it the way he got it, but you're going to get it in some area of your life. That pushback is coming somewhere, in some area in your life, when you get to that, when you experience that level of wealth. Anybody that ever had that level or has that level of wealth will tell you that's, hey, the trouble's coming. So many people is gonna lie on you. So many people gonna talk bad about you. So I'm not saying nobody's lying on him. If the people that say the victims, they say they experienced it, I'm not calling the victims liars. But I'm just saying, like, so I don't know what to make heads or tails on that. Stay tuned. Like, is it going to be a whole thing? They're going to talk about this for the next probably like 6 months, because when they raided, the raid was like about 4 months. Cassie was 6 months, and then the raid was like another additional 4. So it ain't over, it's just beginning. So the fireworks is really about to start. So if you was following it all the way from Cassie, you know, grab a seat, get your popcorn. It's about to get good. But, you know, that doesn't, you know, float my world, float my boat. That's, to me, that's gossip. And I don't gossip, and I try to discourage against gossip. The only reason why I'm talking about it is because it's a trending topic, and it involves somebody from our community. So I'm just trying to give an interesting, a different perspective, a different take on it. But like I said, like, this one is a head scratcher. I'm conflicted. I don't know on this one. I don't know if he's getting his karma or comeuppance, or, you know, he's just a victim of the man. But, you know, that's the lesson out of all of it is, you know, the takeaway you get, the hot take on this whole thing is like, you know, you can't buy your way out of everything. And, you know, treat people right. Do right by people. Treat people right. The same people you step on your way up is going to be the same people you look at. The first faces you're going to see on your way down. So that's it for this episode of the Narrator Podcast. I wish I had something more insightful to say surrounding all this, but it's a little, you know, it's a stinky kettle of fish. I don't know. But join me this weekend for a full episode of the Narrator Podcast. Join me for the rest of this week for weekday episodes, uploads of the Narrator Podcast, wherever you get your podcast information from. So, you know, be positive, stay productive, keep on narrating, and together we will change the narrative. I'm changing the narrative on my end, one episode at a time. I'm asking you to help me change the narrative by becoming a narrator. And while I'm changing the narrative on my end, one episode at a time, as a narrator, you can help me change the narrative on your end, one social media post at a time. Until next time, Halsey Allen, Narrator Podcast, signing off. And it's like that.
I'ma make it a verb.